second signing day just continues to be a unique feel for it. The first one kind of came and went when you're getting ready for a bowl game, a lot going on, and this one just is not as eventful because of the numbers that you're dealing with. So had a couple spots to fill today, and we're able to fill both of those. So really continue to be excited about the offensive line additions and how this class has rounded itself out. Knew it was going to be a little smaller class than we've had, but also adding Khaleel Benson, big old offensive lineman out of South Haven, Mississippi. Just really excited about him and his potential here, as is the case with all these guys. They all got to come here and prove that they're what we think they're going to be. But just from a physical perspective, obviously a big man. If you want him big, recruit him big, and he's long and has really good size, already 330 pounds plus, but just comes from a really, really great family. Loved getting to know him, and when going to school, just the kind of young man that he is, the way he's viewed by principal, AD, counselors, teachers, just really impressed. Getting a first-class young man that's going to come here and work extremely hard. And I think he's got tremendous ability to grow and develop in our program. And then Jalen Mayala, a defensive end that we really were trying to find in this class, and got long and athletic, played linebacker as well as some rush end in high school out of Archer High School there in Atlanta, down in Georgia. Just continues to give us more length on the defensive line, ability to create pass rush, which we're trying to get to. And so just adds to a small group of D linemen that we brought in, but also a lot of young guys in that room already. So really excited about bringing those two guys into our class, and also really encouraged by the 9 guys that have been here already, and then 9 mid-year enrollees that are working very, very hard in the weight room, and excited about their growth and their just attitude, mindset that it takes to be a Big Ten football player. So getting these guys enrolled, it's very big for us, and just really encouraged by their progress so far, getting them indoctrinated with their classes and their schedules, all things that we do, and then more importantly, just getting them used to being a college student athlete, going into the workouts and managing their schedule and managing everything you have to do coming straight from high school. So, and then Dylan coming from as a grad transfer has done a great job so far. So just 19 guys out of high school / junior college, and then 1 grad transfer that's already with us. So that gives us our 20-man class that we have for 2020. So any questions you have at this time?
I think it's now 7 offensive linemen with Benson in there. I know you lost, obviously, a few with the seniors, but do you feel better about the depth? I guess, why was that such a point of emphasis in the class?
It was, and you got a little bit different levels there. You got 5 high school linemen. You have a junior college player that has, 2 years on the field to play with potential redshirt as well, 3 for 2 as we call them in that regard, and then also a grad transfer, so gives you a couple older guys as well as 5 younger guys. So definitely needed to replace guys that we're losing at those positions. O-line's a very important part of our team, and they're all really guys that you want to get here and start developing. That's why it's nice to get several of those guys here mid-year as well, but just trying to get some, inside guys, some outside guys, outside meaning tackle bodies, and which is length, guys that can play on the perimeter and then be able to have the mass to play on the inside in the Big Ten. So, yeah, it was obviously a big focus for this class, and excited about the guys that we brought in.
Coach, coming off an 8-win year, going to the Gator Bowl, were there any examples of all that success paying off in this cycle? And are there any early signs of it paying off for the 2021 cycle?
Well, I think I was asked that before, and I think my answer was that I kind of felt like moving forward was where you're going to see the bigger benefits of it. A lot of the guys that we had in this class were already either committed, really, really bought into what we were doing before we had the season that we had. But I do think getting a young man like Khaleel, I think that was part of it. I think you'd be able to talk about, and not just to hear, but to see what we did, being from that part of the country there where the SEC schools were heavily in contention for him. And so that allowed us to, against an SEC team in that bowl game and the season that we had. So I think that was definitely a byproduct of that. And then I think for sure moving forward with the 21 class, the 22 class, which is going to be, these next 2 classes will be real important for us.
I guess you kind of talked about still getting adjusted to this new cycle and when you first got up there. Have you kind of settled into the idea of having the early signing period now and then this day kind of following up a month later? And if so, have you adapted over the past couple years, becoming a head coach and also going through the different recruiting process?
Yeah, I think you do. You go through it now a few times, and we get in a routine now. We kind of feel very good about the schedule that I had in the second wave of going through and giving me as a head coach a chance to go out and visit schools. And it's really dual purpose. It gives me a great chance to get physically in the schools, spend time with coaches, meet principals, counselors, teachers, just to kind of be very visible in those settings, and also get a chance to eyeball the young guys. I don't get to go out in the spring, as you know. So that's really a new component that as you talk to coaches across the country, that's kind of how I'm sure they all have that. And the ones I've talked to have had a similar approach, but you just kind of get your schedule used to that. And so you organize it accordingly to try and get a presence, both in-state and out-of-state in key areas, and also balancing that with the few guys you're trying to finish up your class with. So you build your schedule off the guys you're trying to get in this class, and then you build, those are the priority guys, and then you build everything around that once you get to a certain area.
Coach, the departure of Coy as a grad transfer and Peyton putting his name in the transfer portal, a surprise during the offseason? Did you have any conversations, and what are your thoughts about how that could impact the team down the road?
Definite conversations with those guys. Did it the right way. Talked to me, face to face, and man, just appreciate Coy and Peyton for all their hard work and what they gave to this program, and wish them nothing but the best moving forward. So, yeah.
Could you revisit your depth situation now that you had a chance to see Dexter and given Peyton's news? Do you still feel comfortable with your numbers and everything?
I do, and we go through and you look at that room. Dexter's mid-year, so he's already here with us. I know he's already caught the eye of our strength staff and the way that he goes about his business and his athleticism and his arm talent. Haven't seen him throw here, but he throws with our players. They've already started those things, and so they obviously talk. But I think that really encouraged by Michael Penix. We set out a plan for him, and his weight has increased quite a bit, since the end of the season, and really encouraged by that and have a specific plan for him. He's when you go through, and when I came back from being on the road and obviously constant contact with our strength staff, and I had him just give me our top 5 guys in the weight room, and he was top of the list. Just one of the top guys that's just had a great work ethic and mindset coming back. Just kind of obviously, the season didn't end with him with getting injured like the way he wanted to, and so encouraged by the leadership he's showing, the work ethic he's showing in there to get himself ready for having a big spring, a big summer, and then a big 2020.
We've talked before about Florida as a place that you want to hit, but you've taken now guys, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, I guess. Is there a comfort level or a response level that you feel like you're getting just from the South in general, especially with the backgrounds you've got on your staff of guys who've been in Florida, in Mississippi, and places like that? And kind of twofold question, are there places or are there other places that as you sort of think to 2021, 2022 and beyond, you'd like to try and open up, kind of in turn, I know people use the word pipeline, but sort of open up more recruiting opportunities in those areas?
Yeah, I think that there's no question that we target Florida, have been pretty aggressive about talking about that, and our numbers have shown that. Didn't get the same signings this year out of that group, which is, it's a cyclical thing that sometimes can change, but we still spend a lot of time down there, and we'll continue moving forward. And so, but yeah, I think that the South in general, just in regards to the connections on our staff, I think that's a big part of it. I think that helps in a big way. And I think that, you'd be able to go through, and we have a good foundation here in the Midwest. That will never change. Indiana's always going to be my first priority. And I want to get the best players out of Indiana to come to IU and be a part of this, and then branch out from there. So you really try to get to areas that you feel you have the best opportunity to get the highest level guys that can contribute and come here and be elite Big Ten football players. We have a specific goal that we have for this program, and if you go through and look and see how our team is being shaped, and the guys that are making plays and doing great things, a lot of those guys have come from the South. So, but there's always going to be a core of guys from the Midwest. We've expanded into Michigan, but that was kind of the addition of Mike Hart and Nick Sheridan on our staff have given us that inroad there, and we've got some really good players out of that state here. Not a lot, but several key ones, and got another one in this class from the state of Michigan. And so I think Nashville, we've kind of targeted as an area we feel like we haven't really probably got as much out of as we would like to. So moving forward, kind of target that more a little bit, moving into the next class and beyond, and continue to hit, the parts of, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. Those are kind of the ones that we have focused on, and kind of spot recruit the Mississippi, Alabama areas, and then really aggressive in Georgia and in Florida. So that won't change. But we're just, once again, I think you marry it to the strengths of your guys on your staff to be able to have those relationships, to get in there, and the coaches that know them and trust them, and be able to get those guys up on campus and show them what we have. And it's just even just this last cycle, we had guys we brought up here, and with the additions that we've had in our locker room and the facility upgrades and just the investment in football, that's this creating so much of a change here that's not happened in the past. They see it, they notice it, and it means a lot. And I think even just the new extension for me and the new contract, just all the things are just showing that we're building something, and it's a long-term build. It's not a short-term type of situation. And so I think all of those go into it, just trying to be very thorough with recruiting, work very, very hard at it. But we do I think you have to go where you have connections and have a chance to get guys on campus and get them to expose them to what we're doing, because every time they come, they're just kind of blown away by what they see when they get here, and then the culture that's being created, the family atmosphere that they fall in love with.
Coach, obviously with the small senior class, you knew it was going to be a smaller 2020 class, but as it seemed to swell by maybe 1, 2, 3 spots here leading up to the February signing period, how did you and the staff kind of talk and congregate, make sure that you guys were adding, an extra 1 or 2 guys while still maintaining the quality of those guys that you brought in?
Oh, there's no question. That's a key, and you have those discussions all the time, and you're not just taking guys just to fill a spot just because it's there, because that, for me, you're always thinking ahead. We're thinking 2, 3 classes ahead of time, and really going through, and it's a process that we're not where we need to be yet. But when you look at your roster in each position and where the departures are going to come by grade level, and to have a better flow there, we're still not in sync with that, from the past or for what we're inherited. And so I just still feel like it's a matter of getting, because you like to have it to where you don't want to lose, a whole group of guys at one time. And so obviously when you have a big influx of young men like we've had in the last 2 classes, the current freshmen and sophomores were such big classes. And so those guys are really predominantly our team right now. And so 2 years from now, there'll be a big departure. So just trying to, through different means, and that can be, even you start to get those numbers right through, getting some older guys here. We don't do a lot of that, but we do a little bit of that. And so, yeah, I just think it's roster management. You're just trying to always, think ahead, create the depth that you need for the current season ahead of you, and then always be thinking about the season next and the one after, to be able to balance up your roster and get offense, defense, special teams all flowing in the same direction with the proper depth to be able to be where we want to be in the Big Ten.
So, a multi-part question, Coach. With the transfer portal becoming more popular, how does that affect your recruiting with high school recruits in terms of you could plug a hole with a guy who's been around the block a couple of times as opposed to a high school player? And then how do you, as a coaching staff, if a guy enters the portal, adjust on the fly to that? Is it something that you kind of keep in the back of your mind, or you just go with the flow and have a contingency plan?
Well, it's definitely changing the way you view recruiting. I know just having conversations with high school coaches kind of over the last few weeks when you go out and they get in schools. I mean, I know they see how it's affecting, the way colleges are recruiting, where you're still going to have the majority of your class is going to be high school guys, but now you have a group that you kind of, some are setting aside for those transfer guys, which is something you never even, discussed in the past. And so I think that, so there's really twofold there. The first part, when you say, we've not used that as a major part of our plan here. I'm a big believer in getting guys out of high school and developing those guys. And so, but when due to injuries, due to even when you have guys on your own team that choose to go elsewhere, and it's obviously very, very common across the country now. Everybody seems to be in the same boat with this. But bottom line is that you have to have a plan when that happens. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you have a heads up. Sometimes you don't. And so you just have to sometimes adjust on the fly. When that situation occurs. But so to me, it's just every school has their own philosophy, how you're going to build your program, and we've chose to build it off of. And some of them are structural things. We don't have we don't recruit a lot of junior college players here for a variety of reasons, and so the academic piece is number one, and so that has limited us an ability to bring in those guys that have a year or two left to play based on their academic status coming out of high school. And then we've taken a few graduate transfers, not very many, and so we've got one currently right now that we just took, and trying to maybe get one or two more potentially if that works out. So, but I do think just talking to coaches, some guys, it's a big part of their plan is to be able to, especially a guy comes in on a new staff. I've seen it happen a couple places where they've come in new and utilize that quite a bit. And so, but it also, there's variables involved with that. Every school is a little different based on your graduate schools and your admissions policies for those graduate schools and what kind of graduate programs you have at your school, really can be a variable that's a big issue there. And so we just take the resources we have and maximize them. And so to me, I just want to be able to, as much as possible, keep guys here and develop them. If they choose to, want to have another opportunity somewhere else, then we'll work with them and help them.
You've had about a month with these January enrollees. Any pleasant surprises, guys who might be more physically ready than you thought?
Yeah, and I really, at this point, it's all based on talking to our strength staff. I've had a chance here this week to be on campus with them, watch them lift and do one team run, which we had on Tuesday. So I've seen a little bit. I think DeMarjay Lewis is one who jumps out to me, both in regards to talking to our coaching staff and just what I saw. Big body guy that moves extremely well, So I think that we learned last year with Matt Bedford, when you come in mid-year, that increases your chances of being ready to play in the fall. So I would say he's a guy that really sticks out to me and our staff as well. And I think Dexter Williams, obviously at the quarterback position, has got a million things to learn, but from a physical standpoint and a leadership standpoint, is a guy that our coaches commented on right away. Caleb Murphy's another guy that here in state, that big 6'3" plus guy, 250-some pounds, coming out of high school, big athlete, plays both sides of the football. High school wrestler, variety of things, could play tight end, could play defensive end, a lot of different, positions that he can be in, but just attitude, moves well, bends well. Those three guys to me kind of stick out. All of them have done well. Luke Wigington's another big, long guy. Luke Hager's another guy that the guys have really commented. So there's several that and all of them have done a great job. So, but I just think that, it's just it can be such a positive thing when you get them here this many months earlier. The weight room, number one, and then the spring ball piece will come later. But from a physical perspective, those two things really add up and can help you.
I think I saw with Khaleel Benson, there was a photo, I think it was of you and basically the entire staff. I went to visit him. How does something like that come together? Obviously, you have less people you're targeting at this point in time, but I guess why do you take the whole staff to go to talk to him? What was that?
Well, it wasn't the whole staff, but it was the majority for sure. But, it just sends a message that he's important to us, and we obviously can only go, I can't be in multiple places at one time. So as I shared with them, I chose to go there as head coach. We chose to bring the majority of our staff, and that means if you're there, you're not somewhere else, so you can only do that so many places, and he's a guy that we really felt strongly about, and wanted to send a strong message to him and his family and all those that are associated with him, that he's a priority, that we're definitely one big family here, and wanted them to feel that in their home. And so I think it was a very powerful message that we sent and they received.
You touched on Mike's progress in the weight room. Is he still on target to practice in the spring? And have you mapped out a spring game practice schedule yet also?
Yeah, he has been released, and so he'll be full bore for spring ball. We don't hit our quarterbacks in the spring, so that won't change. So, but he'll be, whereas last spring he was not full, so he just drew 7-on-7 throughout the spring, did not really take team reps. And so he has been fully cleared for that, and so is doing a great job. And so he's close to 220. He's about, I think, 217, 218 right now. So really changing himself there, which is really important. So, but yeah, he'll be. Plan is our spring game is scheduled to be, on a certain date, and we'll announce that here soon. But he'll be in those practices and getting a lot of reps and going full bore with the team and doing everything, no limitations.
I guess to that broader question, just where is everything health-wise? I imagine there are guys that probably played through things, needed them cleaned up after the season. Are there guys you expected to be limited as you approach spring practice? And I was going to ask about Mike too, but obviously you talked about it.
There's a few. I think just going through the list here in my head, I know that Peyton Hendershot will not be involved in spring ball, just getting recovering from some postseason surgeries and getting his body right. So, but he'll be full bore this summer. And so I know Thomas Allen will be limited in spring in regards to no contact, still coming back from the shoulder surgery. And then a couple other shoulder surgeries that we had. C.J. Person will be limited for spring. And then Jeremy Passmore is coming back. He'll be out there, which is great. Won't be full bore with everything, but he should be able to do drills and do some things there to progress and build that. And Josh Sanguinetti, same thing, had surgery during the season, so he'll be limited, but he'll be out there in a blue jersey. So a lot more guys out there. Like we had the same thing last year with Devon Matthews, where he was not able to hit during spring, but got all the drill work in. So have a few guys in that regard. Stevie should be fine. Everything is looking good with him from his missing the bowl game and everything there. So other than that, I think that's the key ones that will be limited or not in spring, but don't really see anybody that has any issues long term. I feel like they'll all be back this summer, ready to have 2 good solid months of June and July. They'll be ready to go into fall camp with good recovery from those whatever they had postseason.
Coach, you had a luxury last year that maybe only Nick Saban had, was the quarterbacks 1A, 1B. With Peyton moving on, Jack Tuttle, talk about the development of him, the importance of him being ready, because we saw how important it was this past season.
Without question, and that's a challenge to Jack, and he's done a tremendous job working. He's got a great mindset. He's excited to be, in that position, and he's getting bigger and stronger, and he'll have a chance this spring to get a ton of reps and continue to grow and develop. He's got to be ready, and Dexter's got to be ready, and everybody else in that room, So, but I think those, as we know, and it's very, very important that you have those guys ready when called upon, and Jack's going to be a very, very important part of this football team and a very, very important part of our 2020 season. And so, I think it's true every position, but obviously quarterback position, as we know, is extremely important, and you have to have 2+ guys there that can get the job done.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about the move of Casey Teegarden and then the new assistant coaches, Coach Wright and Coach Jones?
Yeah, I tell you, we really excited about the addition of Jason Jones. Actually met him years ago, and I'm a person, I never knew Mike Hart before I hired him, so not every single person on our staff is a guy that I personally knew, but it's usually going to be somebody that I knew really well that has worked with that guy, that I can get, a true, honest, day by day, what's he like, on a consistent basis. But this is a situation where I did know Jason and work with Jason, but I first met him when he was at Oklahoma State, and we were recruiting, and just was always impressed. Just such a sharp guy, and just you can just tell how someone treats people. And then you get to be around him more, and then we coach together at Ole Miss, and just an excellent recruiter, excellent football coach, can really coach the whole back end. He's coached corner, safeties, and kind of do anything he needs to do back there. And so the chance to bring him on our staff was a great thing for us. And I really, with the departure of Coach Inge to Fresno with Coach DeBoer, just really, my first thought was to move Casey there. And I know that he's done it in the past, but it's kind of a lot like myself. And, when I, as a defensive person, and Casey's been defensive coordinator at a smaller level like I had, and to be able to have the big picture view of, commanding the special teams, because you got, you stand right here, you got the whole team, with you when you do. We have special teams meetings every single day. During spring practice, during the fall, that's a big part of the team. And so to have that personality to be in front of the group is very important, to command that room, and then also to be able to have that ability and desire to want to grow and expand in your leadership on a team. And so to me, special teams are just like I said, because I experienced it myself and was predominantly a defensive minded person as a coordinator, and had a chance to go into that role at Ole Miss really for the first time at that level. and just dove into it and learned it, and was able to have a great experience. And so I challenged him about that when I first talked to him about taking on this opportunity and to be promoted to the special teams coordinator. So Casey's embraced that, and I just think that he'll do a great job. And we have a great system in place with that unit and culture that's been established, but I just want to continue to grow it and want to see somebody come in there and put their own personality on, kind of the how we motivate and lead them. The structural part I'm going to be very involved with, and I've really I love special teams play. I know how critical it is, and just want to. I'll continue to be involved with helping in that transition to a new special teams coordinator, but really excited about bringing Jason on board and then having Casey in a new role. He'll do a tremendous job with that group. And he's also going to coach our Huskies as well, which in the past we've divided that up different ways with our staff, and so that'll be great for him, and he's excited about that opportunity as well. And then on the opposite side of the football, the addition of Kevin Wright as our tight ends coach, just really couldn't be more pleased with bringing a guy in that I've not personally coached with in the past, but coached against many times, and so much respect for him. And every place he's gone, he's done extremely well, and just wins, and develops players. And you talk to his former players, and you look at the product, and you just know what you're getting. He's an Indiana guy. He's just his dad's been 50+ years in this state as a high school coach, and counting, and still coaching, and there at Sheridan. And then all the years he spent in Indiana just helps us so much in recruiting this state. Knows everybody so well connected. Then you go down to IMG and spends 5 years down there, and loses 2 games in 5 years, which is pretty amazing. And so, but it's a unique situation. I mean, they obviously been there many times, recruited there. His connection with this whole country, high schools across the country that they competed against and then interacted with, and also extremely great reputation in the state of Florida. So, but he's going to help us in recruiting, even here in the big time in the Midwest, in the Cincinnati area and in the Indianapolis area, and have a big presence there. So, which is where he spent so many years coaching and where he was raised there on the north side of Indianapolis. So just trying to, once again, it's always about fit for me. I want to get guys that fit. The culture that we're creating, we got a really neat thing going here. As the more I'm back here and I'm with our guys and go in the weight room and I'm meeting with guys all the time, met with several already today again, and it's just really neat to see this team just buy in to what we're doing. And it's every offseason it just keeps getting better and better in terms of the work ethic and the mindset and the buy-in and just the belief in what we're doing. So that to me is critical with the coaches you bring in, that we're all aligned philosophically and how we do things. And doesn't mean bringing guys with new ideas. Absolutely, I want that, and that's good. But I want guys that have bought into the way that we lead and the way that we motivate and the way that we build relationships. Because to me, I think that's the key to what we do. And so these guys are going to add to that. I think we're really excited about our staff. Have a great day, Leo.